The Venator Class Star Destroyer was one of the most technologically advanced starfighters to grace the epic battlefields of the Clone Wars. Its nomenclature is misleading though. This ship was far more than just a Star Destroyer. It wasn't just some regular ship with a line, a battleship designed to exchange broadsides. To classify this magnificent ship as such is backwards thinking and reminds me of the tactics used in a bygone era. No, a Venator Class Star Destroyer is far more than just some blunt tactical tool. It is a ship that can have profound strategic consequences on an entire sector of operations. And that's because inside of its hull, a Venator Class Star Destroyer can hold up to 420 fighters, or 6 times more starfighters than the much larger Imperial Class Star Destroyer. Which is why, in my opinion, the Venator Class Star Destroyer is one of the most dangerous ships in the entire galaxy. Which is why learning how to defeat and also capture a Venator is an extremely important lesson for any commander facing the Grand Army of the Republic to learn. And so today we'll be breaking that process down into 5 easy steps. Because we're dealing with essentially an assault carrier, you cannot approach a Venator Class Star Destroyer like it's a battleship or some mere ship with a line. You see, there's a reason why the Venator Star Destroyer looks like it has 2 bridges. The starboard tower is actually the command bridge, whereas the port side is for starfighter command and communications. The second tower is where the first layer of the Venator Class Star Destroyer's defenses lie. Unlike in a battleship, which relies mostly on line-of-sight turbo lasers, the Venator can reach out as far as its fighters can fly, and with the inclusion of hyperdrives, that can be several light years away. A properly defended Venator Class Star Destroyer will have several flights of reconnaissance fighters screening the movements of the larger ship. The Imperial Class Star Destroyer only has 72 TIE Fighter variants, all of which are short range and lack hyperdrives. They actually can't venture far from the mothership. A Venator Class Star Destroyer, on the other hand, usually has 36 ARC 170 starfighters. These aggressive reconnaissance fighters are equipped with extremely robust sensors and communication tools. They have a 3-man crew that is designed to operate by themselves far away from their mothership for extended periods of time. The captain of a Venator could have dozens of these reconnaissance ships located in hyperspace lanes and junctions surrounding the Venator. Remember, even though space is really vast, in Star Wars, ships have to rely on pre-calculated hyperspace lanes for jumps in order to avoid crashing to stars and planets. This will significantly limit the approach vectors an enemy fleet can have on your ship. So with the proper charts and deployment of recon fighters, a smart Venator Class Star Destroyer captain can be notified of any approaching fleet from almost any direction. So the first step in engaging a Venator Class Star Destroyer is actually finding it, ideally before it finds you. This is a lot easier when it's attacking your territory, where you can have passive monitoring stations or listening posts already established on asteroids and moons and planets. But what if you're on the attack and you're heading into their territory? Well, the first thing you gotta watch out for is their reconnaissance fighters. Once you find one of them, you know that a Venator Class Star Destroyer is a few jumps away. During World War II in the Pacific Theater, one of the most common ways for an aircraft carrier to be spotted by the enemy was through their own airplanes. Oftentimes, an enemy scout would spot bombers or fightings returning from a sortie or patrol, and they would just simply follow those planes back to their aircraft carrier when they needed to refuel, and then they would report their location back to their own fleet and launch an attack. Just make sure you don't make the same mistake and let those aggressive reconnaissance fighters tail you back to your fleet. When a Venator Class Star Destroyer's reconnaissance fighters detect a significant enemy threat, it was common for the captain of the Venator to send a good portion of their fighter complement to intercept the enemy fleet. Like the carrier commanders of the Pacific Theater during World War II, the idea here is to strike first, strike fast, and strike with almost everything you have so you can make sure you destroy the enemy. As robust as the Venator Class Star Destroyer was, any close-range battle in a naval conflict is a tactical blunder. Even if you are victorious, your ship will no doubt need repairs and refitting and will be out of action for quite some time. And so the more fighters a Venator Class Star Destroyer can send, the more likely they will be able to successfully destroy the enemy fleet before they can send their own fighters back or get close enough to use turbo lasers and other line-of-sight weapons on the Venator. This, of course, is a huge gamble because the Venator Class Star Destroyer is left relatively undefended when all of their fighters are engaged on these attack runs. Which is why the best tactic to use when engaging a Venator Class Star Destroyer is spreading your fleet into 2 groups. You should use one portion of your fleet to attract the attention of the Venator's scouts, which hopefully will force the captain to launch all of their fighters at this diversionary fleet, which ideally is equipped with a lot of point defense weapons. A big bonus here is that once the starfighters arrive into system and attack your diversionary fleet, you target their hyperspace rings. This way they can't fly back and defend the Venator. Now, against most enemy vessels, when you do make that final approach to within attack range, you're going to want to be pretty cautious and keep distance. But when going up against a Venator Class Star Destroyer, distance is always going to give them the advantage. So what you're actually going to want to do here, which sounds kind of not very logical, is to jump right on top of the Venator Class Star Destroyer. Even if the Venator Class Star Destroyer still has fighters ready to defend itself, if they're in the hangar bay, they'll have to still be launched. This is when a Venator is at its most vulnerable state. Once you get in close range, simply target that massive half-a-kilometer long hangar door that runs through the middle of the Venator. This is where the majority of the Venator's fighters take off from. If you can concentrate enough fire here, they're just not going to be able to take off, and they'll have to launch out of the ventral hangar bay below the ship or out of the 2 side hangars instead. This will severely limit the speed of their fighter deployment. This long middle gate is also one of the structurally weakest parts of the ship, and if the enemy captain is smart, they'll close the armored door over the hangar to prevent more damage to the internal structure. At close ranges, the Venator Class Star Destroyer is equipped more like a light cruiser than a destroyer. It only has 8 double-barreled turbo lasers, which are dangerous, but you could probably outgun it. Now, if you're looking to destroy the Venator Class Star Destroyer, aim your turbo lasers immediately at the command bridge and take it out. But if you want to take the ship and capture it, well, focus on the Starfighter command tower, which is the other command tower, and then also punch holes into the hull of the ship and prepare your boarding party. Generally, on a Venator Class Star Destroyer, you're going to find up to an entire battalion of clone troopers on board. These are going to be very skilled combatants that will take advantage of every bottleneck and corner they can find on the ship. They'll fortify it and cause heavy casualties. You typically need at least a 3-to-1 advantage in these types of scenarios, and probably more because you're going to have to do a very dangerous space crossing to get your Marines or droids onto the enemy vessel. Now, if you're close enough, I believe that jetpack troopers or droid jetpack troopers are the best bet for these type of scenarios. It's going to be much harder to hit these individual targets, and when you do hit one, you're only going to lose 1 unit and not an entire shuttle or transport. Of course, personal jetpacks are only useful for very, very close engagements. Sometimes you do need to launch from further away, so you'll need a transport or a shuttle. Or better yet, if you're the Separatists, you have transports that have the ability to breach an enemy's hull themselves and create new openings for an assault, which is a great way to catch defenders off guard. The idea here is to not funnel yourself into the prepared kill zones that they've established, but to create new entries so you can surround and overwhelm the enemy defenders. So take advantage of those holes in the hull of the ship your own capital ship has created, and also take advantage of the Venator's greatest strength, the multiple hangar doors, and use it as multiple avenues of attack. Now, your force should be focused on taking critical parts of the enemy ship, including its engineering section and reactor core and its hangars. But your main goal is actually to distract the enemies from your main target, which is their command bridge. Now, the Venator Class Star Destroyer's bridge is located at the top of a tower that is only accessible through elevators and a vertical shaft. This is going to be really hard to attack directly. This means you're going to actually have to land your troops on top of the bridge and breach the bridge. Now, this is a very exposed area of the ship, and you will suffer heavy casualties while trying to pull this maneuver off. Now, if you're in space, one of the quickest ways to take out several defenders at the same time is just breaching the hull of this area and venting the bridge out into space. Once you're in charge of the bridge, you basically command all of the blast doors and also the life support system on board the ship. You can basically get rid of a lot of troopers without actually having to engage them. Plus, if your troops are mainly droids, then it shouldn't be a big problem for you to vent all of the oxygen out of the ship. So there you have it, guys. Those are the 5 steps for taking on a Venator Class Star Destroyer. As you can see, it's all about detecting them before they detect you, and the closer you get to the Venator, the easier the battle becomes for your side. Well, guys, I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button down below so you don't miss out on the rest of our awesome content. As usual, my name is Alan, reminding you that my allegiance is to the Republic, to democracy,